So let me start. So I'll just introduce. So my name's Emily Hatton. I run AI and agencies. I'm a business operations consultant. So I've been running a series of webinars on all things kind of related to AI because it's a big conversation at the moment. Some people like it, some people are a bit bored by it, but I think it's also a really important conversation about how agencies are using AI. From my side of it, I'm looking at it from the perspective of actually how you adopt it in the agency and how it's used in your processes. But what I want to do over the next few months is actually dig into some specific business areas and how AI is used more in those. And obviously, very, very popular one is lead gen. That's what a lot of agencies like to talk about. So I want to talk specifically around how AI is used in lead gen. I think it's also quite maybe not controversial, but I think there's probably divided views on it. So it'd be very interesting to see like how the conversation goes today. And of course, Jenny and I will be talking initially, but we will open up the floor for questions at the end as well. So please do make a note if you've got any questions throughout, or if you have any questions you've got, please do bring them at the end as well. So Jenny, do you want to introduce yourself as well? I'm sure some people in here know you, but if you could do a quick intro, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jen, and I lead Gen. I run lead Gen. There's too many leads and too many Gens in my introduction. And I am a consultant for agencies. I deal with sales functions as a whole, but I do specialise in lead generation because most agencies I meet don't have a sales problem; they've got a lead gen problem. So I've been working in sales for about 33,000 years, and I have the grey hairs to prove it. And I went into B2B about 10 years ago, and then specialised in agencies about 6 years ago. And it's a place that I really, really enjoy, and hopefully add a lot of value to. I suppose I don't want to sort of let everything out the bag straight away. I'm just going to say that I have some very strong opinions on using AI in lead generation, which is why I think Emily wanted to have me on the call today.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what I'm up for, right? Like, I don't want I want honest conversations about what people think, because everyone has different views on how to use AI. Everyone has different views in general how to do lead gen. So obviously using AI within that is opening up yet another kind of minefield. So let me just kind of preface the session. So what we're going to be talking about today is the 5 mistakes agencies are making with AI and lead gen. So we're going to give you some examples, give you some examples on some topics to talk around. So we're not going to try and teach you anything. We're just going to have a discussion about what we're both seeing across agencies right now. So I'm coming at it from an operations perspective, so where AI is used in agencies. So we're going to talk specifically around in lead gen today. And there's been a lot of activity of people obviously trying to utilize it more, particularly over the last 6 to 12 months. A lot of experimentation, a lot of tools, and a lot of people testing things out. But if you actually look at the outcomes of that, it's been relatively mixed. So people might feel like they're doing a lot more volume wise, but if they actually analyze the results, it might not be that different. So we're going to talk through some of that today. So I think an important starting point is that AI is used a lot in lead gen through tools that people are using. So if agencies are using tools, often they have AI integrated in most cases. So a lot of people are using it to write outreach messages, to summarize companies, to generate ideas, and sometimes to automate parts of the process entirely. But when you actually look at pipeline, the consistency of leads coming in, the quality of the conversations, and the conversion to revenue, very few agencies would say it's materially better because of AI specifically. So rather than talk about what AI could do, it's useful to look at what's actually happening. So we're going to talk kind of a bit about the big picture and what's happening in outreach right now. So Jenny, do you want to talk a bit more about what you're seeing in terms of the wider agency landscape and what you're seeing with your clients as well.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of agencies adopting AI to do all the lead gen for them. And I'm seeing it fail spectacularly with, the outreach messages. I mean, AI seems to have, we're at the point now where when you receive a message from someone, you can tell not only that it's AI, but which AI they're using because of the tone of voice. It doesn't matter how much you try and train an AI, it will always revert back to its original tone of voice when it comes to these outreach messages. And it's clear as day. Now, what's happening is that so many agencies, I appreciate that agencies are very time poor, and they, there's a lot of the time, especially with smaller ones, all the sales are founder led, and you don't have time to, or you think you don't have time to do sort of personalized, proper outreach. There's cutting corners with AI happening left, right, and centre. But remember that there's so many agencies that are doing this that your messages look exactly the same to these prospects of yours as the other 10 agencies that have messaged them that week. You are being lost in a sea of this kind of, it's like an echo chamber where everyone's just saying the same stuff, and no one's really standing out. So I'm seeing a lot of that happening. Also, it's being used generally. I think it's being used in the wrong places. My overall view of AI is that it can be really, really good when used correctly, but it's not being used correctly. It's being adopted way too fast. It's replacing things that should be manual, and it's having a detrimental effect on lead generation massively for agencies that are doing that.
Okay. And when you say a detrimental effect, in terms of people's results, you think, or in terms of their reputation?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's damaging reputation, because there's only so many times that you can try and get in touch with a really nice, highly qualified prospect. And if you're wasting that on AI messaging, then you're going to burn through really nice opportunities. It's damaging reputation when you're doing that. Also, AI can occasionally go a bit mental. It can pick up the wrong cues, and the personalization can be wrong, and it can leave you looking a bit of a fool to people that actually you really, really want to work with. But also in results, it's not, from all of the automated AI outreach tools and stuff that I'm seeing agencies using, the conversion rates are through the floor. They're just not, at first, much like any new exciting thing that agencies adopt to sell, whether it's different methodologies, different tools, etc. At first they do work, but they become very quickly saturated, and they stop working really quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and it's interesting because I was looking at some stats and on conversion rates, like on how many people are like getting first conversations and stuff. And actually I was like trying to look back through stats more than a year ago versus now, and it has totally changed, and it's like the volume of outreach is much higher, so obviously there's like a lot more going out because that's easy, but therefore the percentage of people who are like getting back to you is much lower, even at an initial conversation stage. So it's interesting looking at how that's really changed, and even me thinking like personally, I'm sure everyone here personally, like how your inbox has really changed over the last year just through like high volume of personalized messaging is probably drastic compared to like 2 to 3 years ago, whereas that was way less common. And now obviously I ignore it, other people ignore it, and your potential prospects ignore it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can say that's just a little nugget here in terms of statistics. working with agencies, the ones that do really good manual outreach over AI outreach, they tend to have about a 10% outreach to lead conversion rate. You know, about 10% of those people will respond positively. When using the tools, it's usually less than 1%.
Okay, wow, okay. Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just to summarize that, I think what we're kind of both seeing is that there's a lot more activity, but not always better outcomes, obviously, or not at all better outcomes from what you're seeing with your clients. And that's where a lot of these mistakes start to show up. So now we're going to dig into like mistakes that people are making more specifically. So you guys have got something to take away. So mistake number one, using AI to write messages instead of finding insight. So this is a really obvious one that I'm sure everyone's done, which is like understandable. And I'm sure that everyone on here is thinking like about how to do this a lot better. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. So using AI to write outreach messages, it makes sense why people do this. Obviously, it's visible. Obviously, it's like a visible gain to you. It's quick and it feels like an easy win. What happens, as we know with this and with LinkedIn content, etc., the output becomes very similar across the board. So what are you seeing when it comes to AI written outreach specifically at the moment?
Well, like I said before, it's all the same. You can,
Yeah.
you know, we're so familiar with it, we're so saturated by it that you can tell which AI they're using. It would be a fun activity to do actually, but I can go through my inbox now and I can tell you that, you know, 'cause despite the fact of what I do, I still get lots and lots of people trying to offer me lead generation services. I can tell you what they'll be using and I'll be not right 90% of the time. Yeah, it's exactly the same and it gets things wrong. It gets things wrong all the time. So a nice example that I got yesterday, someone sent me an AI outreach message, and in there they tried to refer to my job title, where normally obviously it would autofill director, or you know, and they said directors like you. It was that kind of in that context, but because I'm a little odd, on LinkedIn my job title is I am the lead gen. And so they sent me a message saying, for I am the lead gens like you. And I was just like, and I just emailed them, I messaged them back and said, I went, Psst, your AI is showing, you know, so it makes mistakes like that. It's not, it just makes people look a bit silly more often than not, I think.
And just in terms of like playing devil's advocate, so if using AI to write outreach obviously saves time, so if you had the choice between producing 100 outreach messages which are like personalized using AI, or 5 more time consuming outreach messages, so some people might think, okay, but I would rather try and reach 100 people than reach 5. Like that will give me a higher chance of like getting something in. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's quality over quantity every time. Quality over quantity gives you better conversion rates, and it's a fact. It's not my opinion. It's a fact. You know, you can see this everywhere. Statistics. I can pull out statistics from all of my clients and show you that that is the case every single time. So really, do you want to? How I would reframe that is: do you want to potentially damage your reputation? And you know, and damage opportunities with good leads by sending them AI written messages, or do you want to spend a little extra time on less people and preserve your reputation while simultaneously having a higher conversion rate?
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's places there's definitely a way. It's not a case. It's not so black and white as to say, well, don't use it at all, AI can absolutely help you, especially if you just don't know what to send to people. If you're looking at someone's LinkedIn or their website or whatever, and you're like, I have no idea what my in is here, hand it over to AI and ask it in a in that context. Say, look, you don't need to write me a message, but can you give me some ideas as to where my in might be and how I should structure a message, and take ideas from it. Give it, let it give you ideas. Absolutely, that will save you time, and you will be able to do more messages that way. But just don't ask it to write messages for you.
Yeah. Okay. No, and I think that's a really good point. Like, it can speed things up a lot for you, because, for example, like even with giving you ideas, it can give you ideas. Also, you can provide it like good context on what you do, what like what you're looking for in the client. And it can give you like a really good starting point for, okay, what a good hook might be for this person, based on what you do, based on what they do, and what you want to do is this. But of course, the same with using AI anywhere, like it needs human intervention at the right point. Otherwise, what we're getting at the moment, like, is just loads and loads of the same messaging, and you're just falling into that. And it's competitive enough in the agency space without you needing to fall into that. Just because you can do something, so just because you can use AI to write 1,000 messages really quickly, doesn't mean you should. And you just got to think, what are you going to do differently from other people, and what is going to make you stand out? Look at your own inboxes as an example, and think of that for the people that you're emailing. Like, how are you going to stand out in that if you're just writing a blah message? And like, what AI produces is normally kind of correct. So yes, of course, there's sometimes errors, but it sounds correct. There's nothing wrong with the way it sounds usually, which is why people often like go ahead with sending it. It doesn't sound bad, doesn't sound wrong. And it's like ticks the boxes of what a good message probably looks like, a good inbox message in terms of sales. But it doesn't actually know what is like interesting about you, about the client, what's specific that will actually make that work. So they're technically fine, but they're just not compelling at all. So it actually won't work in practice. So it is a message which works in terms of like the format and the structure of a message, but that is not what is going to compel people to get over the line with you. Okay, so let's move on to mistake number 2. So people often automate outreach before they fix targeting. So instead of improving who they're speaking to, they're increasing how many people they're speaking to. So obviously what AI allows you to do is to be like find loads of people en masse and potentially target them. That sounds great in principle, that you can find more people more quickly. But what do you think is the problem that this is leading to with agencies having all this information available?
9 times out of 10, it gets it wrong. And when you try and, sort of scale up that targeting, and you want more people, here's an example in my day-to-day life. When I'm doing research for my clients and I'm pulling together prospect lists, now I work on 20 people at a time, not clients. I work on creating lists of 20 prospects at a time, because I think that's a manageable amount to do manually. Sometimes I will use AI to help me find people. And say, I'm looking for this type of company with these types of company sort of demographics and company position, etc. Can you show me 20? And it will show me 20. Now, if I just ran with those, 80-90% of them would be wrong, because most of the time it's only 1, 2, or 3 of those that, when I manually go in and research each of those myself, I find actually does fit, and the rest are wrong. It will say, oh well, this place has this many staff, this place has this this much in revenue, etc. But when you actually go and look, it's wrong. It's either got outdated information, or it's pulled information from an article where their revenue was being discussed and that company was being discussed, but that revenue doesn't actually attribute to that company, etc. So what you end up with is really shoddy targeting if you just go with what it tells you to go with. And that's the case with a lot of the tools as well. The tools that, kind of the do it all for you tools, they write you messages for you and they find you the lists and then you just hit send. The amount of times for just myself, and I'm using myself as an example as it's real world and I can talk about it, but the amount of times that I receive messages that are completely irrelevant to me, that don't make any sense. Like I had an automated email that was trying to sell me dog harnesses. I've never owned a dog. I have no intention of owning a dog. I have 4 cats. If you had been on my LinkedIn, looked at me at all, then you would see I'm very much a cat person and I'm not your ICP. But clearly at some point I've been talking about animals or I've commented on someone's post of a dog or something and it's picked me out and gone, oh, well, that's a good person to contact. So you're wasting money because there's credits and things involved and different packages with these types of tools. You inevitably end up wasting money chasing the wrong people.
Yeah, and I think even prior to that, some agencies have really got their ICPs nailed, which is great. But if you also are a bit broad on your ICP, that is another way that AI can really accelerate like kind of your wasted with like ruin your reputation partly by contacting people who are really irrelevant to you, but also like burn through just you feeling like you're putting more effort in, so you feeling like you're outreaching to like 500 people and that's great and you've achieved some kind of target, but actually only a very small minority of those will be even within who you should be talking to. So you're doing a load of action for nothing. Okay, so you might have been able to do it really quickly, but what's the point? What's the point in kind of ticking boxes of like, yes, let's contact 500 people? Like it needs to be well targeted in the first place, and AI doesn't help with that. Like you need to really work on who you're targeting in the first place, obviously, because if you don't even get that right, using these tools will just amplify it massively.
I mean, to again go with a positive side of where AI can help with your targeting, is it's fairly good at picking up patterns. So if you're in a position where you're not sure if your ICP is right and you're not sure, or you not sure what your ICP is at all, which is the case with a lot of agencies, or it's evolved over time and you don't even know what it is anymore. A really interesting exercise is to input to AI who you've worked with client wise, but not just all the people, but the ones that you've really enjoyed, the ones that you felt have been best for your business, and put in as many details as you can about how much they spent with you, the kind of project that you did or retainer, etc., and put all of that information in and then ask AI to tell you if there's a pattern. And it can sometimes be quite insightful in picking up stuff that you may not have seen, which helps you to manually target better.
Yeah, nice. And even I guess what I've spoken to kind of my clients about a bit on this is like most people have some ideal clients in mind as well. So like, they might have their favorite ones they've worked with, but they probably have got a few like, oh, I'd love to work with that brand and that brand, that are ones that are realistic for them to work, not like Apple, like realistic brands that they would like to work with. And actually doing that exercise about who you have worked with and saying like, okay, so what can I do to get to get me with these ideal brands based on what's happened in the past, I think is also useful. Like AI can provide some great ideas around that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the common theme that we're going to find here is that don't let it just do things for you, but let it assist you. Almost like a virtual assistant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there are plenty of places, like you said. Like I think actually it's gone the other way around so far. I've been more negative, and you've been more positive about how to use AI so far. So
who'd have thought?
But like, of course, like we should be using the tools that we have available to us now. Like you should be, and there are ways of using them really well to help you achieve what you want to. So that's obviously what we're trying to get to. So mistake number 3, increasing volume without improving relevance. We kind of touched on this a bit, but let's go into it specifically. So if you just turn up what you're doing, so whether that's just messaging more people without actually looking at whether the messaging is relevant for them, it's not great for marketing agencies' reputation, obviously, because that is something that you should be focused on, and it's not great for people's reputation in general. But I think people really do feel like more outreach is good. Like, and we said this earlier, you know, they just feel like increasing the number is good. And everyone who is on here from agencies will have lots of outreach companies reaching out to you saying, like, we can give you whatever 5,000 leads.
We can,
you know,
10x
like
your growth.
Yes, exactly. Like all of you will have had that, and probably all of you will have had conversations with people like that, because it seems like a good option at some point. So, so in some cases, increasing volume does have an impact, but only if the relevance is there. So obviously, if the relevance is there, there should be an option to turn things up, but not at the scale that we're talking. A lot of kind of dodgy people are talking to you, sending it across to you by email. So, what do you think actually makes an outreach message feel relevant at the moment?
There's got to be a sense of humility and relatability, which you absolutely can't get from AI outreach. You've got to stand out, and you're not going to stand out if you're just regurgitating the same stuff as the last 10 agencies that ended up in that prospect's inbox. What does it look like? I mean, again, it's really hard to give a framework, because it's going to depend entirely on what you're selling and who you are and who that prospect is. But what I will say is AI will give you a false sense of security. It will lull you into a false sense of security, and it will always agree with you. It will always agree with you. What it won't do is give you new ideas or tell you, actually, I don't think that's a good idea. And it can send you on a spiral of kind of self-fulfillment, which isn't going to get you the results that you want. So there was a point that I had here and I've forgotten it, and I'm trying to resurrect it back from my brain. But it was along the lines of the kind of that false sense of security that I mentioned. Bear with me a moment. Emily, you might need while I'm trying to remember what it was I was about to say.
So in terms of being relevant, I mean, there's being relevant and standing out. So obviously being relevant is you need to understand the situation that who you're contacting is in, or something that's happening in their business that shows that you like understand them. And obviously in terms of like standing out, you and your agency is only yours, right? So that's how you need to focus on standing out, is that's what makes you different. So if you just talk about the same blah outreach stuff, like, you know, we can improve your ROAS, blah, 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 like, then you're not going to stand out versus the million other agencies that emailed them. So it's thinking about, and this is what AI can help you with once you've provided like some training and inputs and stuff, but like you need to do the original thinking in terms of what, you know, what is yours and what is your approach to your clients. Jen, you just remembered.
I've remembered.
Yeah.
I remembered what I was going to say. With outreach or any form of lead generation, what works changes way more frequently than you think. And that is because when someone has an idea and it starts working well, it gets adopted by loads of people. And again, it ends up saturated and then it stops working. What AI can't do is give you new ideas. It can only give you ideas that already exist. And I'm not saying that, you know, the only way to win new business is to have completely original ideas that no one's ever thought of, but it's only going to give you the ideas that are already quite saturated. So when you're relying on that for your source of outreach ideas, you're not allowing yourself to come up with anything original or creative, and you're just going to be again in that echo chamber of it telling you you're doing a great job doing the same thing that it's told the last 2,000 agencies that asked it is doing a great job too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't allow for originality in that way. There you go. I'm glad I
Yeah.
remembered that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And this is where like AI can help give you ideas, right? So it can help tell you what has worked for other people, which some of it could be relevant to you because everyone's at different levels of doing outreach and things. And obviously, you know, outreach is about testing. There isn't, if there was this formula that just worked, everyone would do it. So like, you know, it's all about testing. And it's different for different people. So what works for you won't work for your competitor. Like, you know, the frequency, the style, the whatever, everything changes all the time, which is why it's really difficult to say this is the successful formula for lead gen. And like you said, it changes all the time, but it can give you ideas for what has worked for other people, what has worked for other industries that you might want to play about with for you. And then you need to like do some actual thinking yourself about your approach and how you would like to be seen and how you would like to come across, and that's what makes a big difference as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to mistake number 4. So I think we're going to fit them all in. So treating AI as a shortcut instead of part of a system. So a lot of people are using AI in lead gen to like just really jump massively in their figures, for example. So they might have said, we're doing like, you know, some agencies do no lead gen at all, right? You know, they just let it completely drop off a cliff. And they're like, right, great, I'm going to switch this on and I'm going to be outreaching to 500 people instantly per month. So they treat it as a shortcut. They think, oh, you think about it, that's just switched on in the background. That's what agency founders want, obviously. Like in some instances, you know, they just want to kind of switch it on, not really think about it, and just think that's happening. But like you said right at the start, you know, that is not going to lead to success, and it's probably really detrimental and actually leading to worse figures than you can even imagine. So probably you are just burning your money and you're on this thing that you switch on and don't put any input into, basically. So it always needs to be a structured process. So you have like targeting, research, messaging, and follow up, and all of those things need to work together. It doesn't remove the structure of all the things that need to happen to lead gen to work. It just changes how some parts can be done now to either save your time. So like manual research can obviously be significantly saved time by using AI in certain areas. To speed up parts of it, and then there still needs to be the human intervention to check obviously the research that you've got and the results and things. So it does save some time there. VueGen, it doesn't remove that structure, so it changes those parts. So can you just give a couple of examples of where you think agencies should be using AI in their lead gen?
Absolutely. So again, I will give real world examples of what I'm doing. So some of my clients, alongside lots of manual activities, we may have a cold email marketing campaign running in the background. Messages written by yours truly, and not AI. But there's features on the tool that I use Instantly to do that. Now there's a feature where you can get AI to automatically reply to any positive responses, and I switch that off because I don't want that. What I do want, however, is for the AI to read the responses that are coming in and then email me and tell me if it's a positive response so that I can go in and manually respond. So things like that, so that I'm never missing an opportunity that's coming in because I'm being notified. and it's picking up and reading it for me, and then just letting me know that I need to do something about it, stuff like that. And in CRMs, for instance, you can get some amazing AI automations in there
Yeah.
that are making sure that you're always on top of things and doing things manually. When, you know, any form of outreach should always be done manually, whether it's a follow-up, you know, and nurturing follow-up or anything like that. But it can let you know, you know, this person, you've not been in touch with them for a while, and they can give you an AI overview. The last time you spoke to this person in via email, it was about this. It might be worth sending up a follow-up now about this, and getting those sort of nudges. It's like how you can use it in a way where it's like you've got, again, that assistant in the corner going, oh, here's, you know, I've noticed this, here's some notes for you, you need to get this done. It can be really, really helpful in that way, and I use it in that way. You know, again, I'm not totally anti AI. It can be great, I just don't want it to speak for me.
And I think another thing that agencies who, you know, are who are doing some level of outreach, they should use it to do analysis on what's working and not. So you should be pulling together your results. So either like from a CRM, if you've got all your like responses and things, all your like outreach and responses in there, you know, you can use AI to analyze, okay, you know, which messaging has got responses, so therefore, like, how can we what should be the next steps on this, like what frequency is working really well. So obviously great if you've got someone who actually like reports on that for you, but AI can do a good job with doing good analysis of results and giving you some ideas for therefore what to do next. So you can use AI to do analysis and make suggestions and give you ideas, because I think often people get stuck with, okay, so we've done, like you said, outreach changes all the time, so you can't just keep the same outreach strategy like ongoing. So you need to think however often you want to change it, and AI can really help with that, with giving you like an analysis and pattern about like what is working well, what should you keep. So is it good if you follow up 3 times in a row in a short space of time? Yeah, that's working well. Okay, so let's keep doing that, but the messaging didn't work, so let's change that, for example. I think that's something that people aren't doing very often at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so on to mistake number 5. We can't touch on this, but let's just make sure there's anything else we want to cover. So not using AI where it actually adds value. So that point that I just mentioned there, and you just mentioned, Jen, is some good examples. So it's being used very heavily in messaging, but underused in the area where it actually adds the most value. So I think this is the main problem, and I think this is where people feel a bit ick about using AI in lead gen, because they automatically think of those messages. That's like the instant thing that people think of, but of course that's not the case. There's like a million other places to use AI than that. So where I see it working well is research and prep. Obviously, like, it's good in terms of giving you like up to a certain point a level of research, and then you can put your human intervention and text on it. So it can get you the information for a company quickly, pull together some context and identify some potential angles. But what it does need, as we've said all the way through, is it needs checking, verifying, because it doesn't always pull together the right information. It's looking at sources, and obviously it depends on the model you're using, etc. There's like so many issues with AI putting together that level of information, but it still does allow you a baseline of doing it. So you should use it to give you a baseline, and then you should build on that. And what it does provide you with is that people just won't bother. So if it's a choice between like doing outreach or not, this does take you an amount along the way so that you can get along with the parts of outreach that require you to do it, rather than like the whole process, which would take a lot longer. And that's kind of the point. You should use it in the part that saves time. Have you got any other things you want to mention in terms of where AI actually makes a difference, or where it has a positive impact in lead gen?
Yeah, definitely. Data hygiene. It's really good with data hygiene. Keeping your data, making sure that your data is properly organized, which is essential when you're doing any form of outreach, any form of, you know, lead generation. You need to make sure that you're keeping your data and your metrics schmick. Otherwise, there's no point, because then you have no information. Sorry, I do realise the sun is slowly moving over my face here. I'm moving more and more over here. But yeah, data hygiene is really, really good at helping you organise, whether it's a CRM, whether you're still using spreadsheets. It can make sure that you've got all the right data points, and that that you're not missing opportunities to segment and target better. Also really good with A/B testing as well, reviews on A/B testing. So when you're doing any form of outreach, I always, recommend running A/B testing simultaneously, so that you can see, say for instance, you're sending emails. If one set of emails has a really good open rate but no response rate, then it means that you've got the subject line banging, but there's something wrong with the content. Or if you've got one where you've got a really terrible open rate but a fairly high conversion rate, then it means that the subject line's wrong, but the body of the email is good. And that's all well and good, and most tools will give you those metrics, but it doesn't help you understand why that's happening. And AI is really good at evaluating that based on the data that you've already got, and giving you some ideas as to what's broken, why it's not working. So yeah, it's good to explain things, to analyze things. It's good with behind the scenes stuff. It's good to help you with your sort of more administrative tasks within lead gen, but yeah, just not insanely good at doing the actual outreach and doing the actual lead generating for you.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So that's our kind of take on the 5 mistakes that we see in agencies at the moment. If we just close off our conversation, then we'll just open up the floor quickly in case there's any questions. So the core question is it really helping in lead gen now? So like, I think it's a bit early to tell, like, as in it is helping in some areas. And I think that what we need to do as professionals in this field is not just do things because we can, like have proper thinking, as you should with using AI across any parts of your business. Where should you use AI? Understand what AI is good at and what AI is not good at, which were the things you just listed, Jen, like analysis, research, things like that. Think properly about what it's good at, use it in those places, and then use your human intervention for other places, and then it will optimize your process there, because it will speed up parts of it so that you can do it a lot quicker than you could do before. You still shouldn't use it for volume, like that's not the point, but it should speed up parts of the process so that you can outreach to as many people as you want to. Most people don't even get round to outreaching to as many people as they want to, so it can help you get there with a reason of outreach, with your input, and just making sure that it's personalized for you. And what about your final view on it, Jen?
Well, very similar, really. Again, helps you. It's very good with the administrative tasks, the stuff behind the scenes, the organization, keeping you on top of things, holding you accountable to things. It's very good for that kind of stuff. But just don't let it be you, I think, is my final note. Don't let the AI pretend to be you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions they would like to ask? I know everyone's normally quite shy on these talks, but
well, maybe we just covered absolutely everything. There is no question to ask. So we'll just give you 1 minute if you want to ask any questions. Of course, if you want to send any in afterwards, then that's totally fine as well. I'll share the recording in case oh, David, you've got a question. Perfect.
Hey, yeah, thank you. That was really useful, and good morning, guys. Yeah, I completely agree, and I think trying to stand out in like this sea of sameness, I think, is obviously probably the biggest challenge for everyone. That's what AI's brought on. So just, I guess, like very top level, like, because I've actually struggled to go back to normal personalized outreach, because it almost it almost still starts to sound like AI, like the whole old school approach. So just keen to hear your thoughts. Like if we went back and just ditched all the tools and just went back to writing personalized messages to cold leads on LinkedIn, what are the key points that you think are like the fundamentals of really trying to make sure that I know you mentioned relatability, humility, etc., but like even when I've tried it, the kind of structure, because AI has already just like monopolized that kind of old school structure of hook and all of this stuff. How do you stand out in a personalized message now?
Oh, I can answer this.
Yeah.
So first things first, a cold outreach message should not be your first point of contact with your prospects. When I'm looking or creating strategies for my clients, what we do around LinkedIn is first things first. So we get a list of 20, as I mentioned earlier, manageable number of as highly qualified as possible prospects prior to actually speaking to them. So, checking out the company positioning and company position and things like that, and making sure that, what service you provide is something that they look to genuinely need. Then you find the right people that you need to be speaking to. And then the first thing that I always say is start engaging with their content before anything else. Don't send them a connection request. Don't send them a message straight away. Just start engaging with their content like a normal person would if they stumbled across your post. And have a sort of weekly schedule of going in, checking out their profile, seeing if they've posted anything. Always, whenever you engage with someone's content and you're commenting, always end with a question. Try and get them to engage back with you. Just make it all about them and slowly build that relationship, just like you would with any other human being, over the course of about 4 weeks. The first messages that you send should always be about them, not about you. So a mistake that people always make is going in with the hi, we sell this, do you want it? And that rarely sits well. And it's really, really difficult to send a message like that without just looking like a spammy salesperson. So yeah, just always make it about them, asking questions about them, taking it as an opportunity to learn as much as possible, because the more information you have on them, the more leverage you then have to try and get them into a proper conversation about how you can benefit them. So yeah, just get in there, engage with them like a normal person would if they just discovered that profile. And then when you do come to message them, asking them questions about themselves and just making it all about them. People really enjoy talking about themselves, so give them an opportunity to do that first.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
No worries.
Matt, you've got a question as well.
Yes, I've got a follow-on question from David's point. That really resonated, and that was similar to the question I was going to ask. I think that works really well, and I've heard that approach on podcasts and things. But what if the qualified lead you found on LinkedIn doesn't post regularly? What would your approach be then?
So the something that a lot of people don't know about LinkedIn, which you may well know, and I might be preaching to the converted, but when you're looking at someone's activity, there's also an option to look at comments. So if they've not posted anything in ages, it's entirely possible that they're still active in terms of commenting on other people's posts, and you can actually go on and respond to their comments on other posts to get a conversation started. Alternatively, you can see reactions to things, likes and stuff like that, and that can give you an angle in. If there's no other way and you do have to go in with a connection request with a message, then base it on something that you've seen that they've liked. Because that's something that they're showing an interest in. So it's a good way to start a conversation, making it about them. If your prospect isn't active on LinkedIn at all, then don't reach out to them there, because that's not where they are. You've got to meet them where they're at. If they're only using LinkedIn once every 3 months to post something purely about their company for a marketing perspective, Sorry. Someone just tried to call me through. That was inconvenient, wasn't it? That's going to make for a fun recording. But yeah, you've got to meet your prospects where they're at. If they're not engaging on LinkedIn, then that's not where you should be trying to get in touch with them.
And also, just add on to that, like I've done that, or I've like spoken to people about that as well. But I've also said just prioritize people that do first. Like you're still fine if you're sorting through your prospects. Like if you go through and have a look, okay, so which 20 are active on LinkedIn, like just concentrate on those ones first, and then you can, and those will be easier for you to make those conversations with. You will find, you should find enough. So yeah,
absolutely. When I make those lists of 20 for my clients to go after, I only put in, if we're using LinkedIn as part of that strategy, I will only include leads that are active on LinkedIn that they can do something with. Don't try and chase ghosts around the internet. It will be a big waste of time for you. There will be other ways to get in touch with these people that isn't sort of trying to bang down the door of an empty house. I'm full of euphemisms today.
Okay, any other questions you want to ask here? Oh, Claire's got one. I just saw you come off. Perfect. Go, Claire.
Hi, good morning both. Thank you very much. That's been really interesting. One of the things we continue to come up against is being ghosted by prospects. And that, I mean, prospects who have actually engaged, maybe they've sent an inbound inquiry, perhaps we've even gone so far as doing a proposal for them, but then they completely drop off, don't reply, don't come back to us. Any recommendations on how we might be able to use AI to address that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. The pattern recognition that I mentioned earlier, you need to have as much data as possible. So exactly what stage of the pipeline that these prospects were at when they dropped off. You can even upload emails and stuff if you want to, if you feel, if you're using a secure enough platform, and just see if the AI can pick out. There might be language that you've overlooked or something like that is becoming common. I mean, it's something that I would do manually myself, but there's no reason why you can't use AI to do it if you're short on time and capacity. But it just needs to have as much information as possible in regards to the communication that you've had and the stage in which they've dropped off, and see if there is a trend there for something that, a hole that needs plugging.
Yeah, that's super. Thank you. It is immensely frustrating, as I'm sure other people have experienced when you've gone so far. And it would be great just to get the feedback, even if you've not been successful. It's always really useful to learn as to what it was that perhaps didn't, meet their brief. So yeah, we'll continue to explore that. Thank you very much.
And I think just to add to that, like using AI to help you with ideas in that area is good, because obviously like you're working in a silo and you're not seeing what other people are doing. So I think if you like put in all the things that you've done, actually you might get some ideas for, okay, if they're all at this stage in the process, maybe it was like, we didn't have enough calls as part of this process. So asking AI to give you some ideas on what else other people are doing is helpful for you working a bit in a silo on your lead gen and on your sales process, I think, because it can just reinvigorate. And you need to test different things as well, like we've said, like what's working, what was working a year ago, 2 years ago isn't the same thing that works now. Like there's a lot longer closing this year and last year than there has been previously, so everyone needs to adjust what they're doing in terms of making most of that, and you can use AI to do some research on what other people are testing. Okay, any other final questions? We've gone a bit over time, but I'm sure I left a bit of a gap, so hopefully that's fine for people. Any other final points? If not, feel free to message me, or of course Jen, if you've got any questions. Please do follow Jen on LinkedIn if you're not already. She shares some really good content and obviously has some really good thought leadership in this area. And if you need help in this area, obviously get in touch with Jen as well, because she is a well-renowned expert to help agencies in this area. So if you want to find out more about what she can do to help you, please do get in touch with her. She is the best known in the agency world for this.
I
and
also
of course-
post really unhinged things on LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, that's a positive one. And of course, from my perspective, so I'm looking at for agencies how you should use AI across all your processes, and what I'm launching in the next couple of days is just something to support a bit with like where you need to be looking at using AI in lead gen, which is kind of the discussion we've had today, but it's to give agencies a bit more, put it into a structure so that they can actually do it. So so I'll be in touch with that obviously after the webinar. If you've got any questions, please do message either of us. Thanks for joining, thanks for taking the time, and see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.